President Zelensky accuses Russia of bombing residential districts in the city of Kharkiv, calling it a war crime.
Russian forces have brutally fired on Kharkiv from rocket artillery. It is clearly a war crime.
Reports suggest a huge convoy of Russian military vehicles seen advancing on Kyiv is much longer than earlier thought. 500,000 people have left the country since the invasion began, with some cities witnessing a frantic scramble to escape.
The police, again, are outnumbered, but they are doing their best. I've seen them go down there into the crowds and try and calm people. But it's very, very difficult given the volatility of the situation.
Russia's central bank is rocked by sanctions imposed by the US and her European allies. Interest rates soar, the ruble plunges. And in the world of sport, all Russian football teams at country and club level are suspended from international competition.
Well, let's take a look at how the papers are reacting to the crisis in Ukraine this morning. The Eye carries the stark headline, "Putin bombs civilians," showing the skyline of Kiev ablaze. The Financial Times pictures a destroyed Ukrainian tank on the streets of Kharkiv after Russian forces launched a heavy assault on the city. Barbaric. The Times headlines with the Prime Minister's comment about Russian strikes on Ukraine. The Sun this morning leads with a photo of a 10-year-old girl who was shot dead with her parents by Russian soldiers. Her name was Polina. The Metro, meanwhile, quotes a doctor who tried unsuccessfully to save the life of a 6-year-old child who was hit by a Russian shell. He told a camera crew, "Show this to Putin." The outrage at that little girl's death is also the main story for today's Telegraph. Fight for the innocence. The plight of children during this conflict features on the Mirror. The same photo on the Express. Their headline, "Monstrous." The Mail contrasts with the humanity of its readers, who have raised over £1 million for the Ukrainian people, with what it insists is Vladimir Putin's inhumanity. And in a moment of, extremely rare levity, the Star shows what is purported to be a Ukrainian farmer attempting to tow a Russian tank off his land with his tractor.
Let's get right up to date with everything that has been happening overnight in Ukraine. James Reynolds is here to tell us all about it. And James, it's a region you know really well.
I went there in 2014 and in 2015 covering the first start of the war, as it turns out. But no Ukrainians I spoke to back then ever thought that it would get to this. So what we want to do this morning is bring you right up to date on day 6 of the Russian invasion. You can see there the state of the country. The areas occupied by Russia are in red in the north, the east, and also in the south. Now, in the first few days, Ukrainian forces have had some success in pushing Russia's forces back. But this may simply mean that Russia changes tack and intensifies its own offensive, particularly right here around the capital, Kiev. Now, let me show you how Russia may do this. This is the Russian military convoy we spent time talking about this morning. It's stationed about 20 miles northwest of the capital, and these satellite photos show, with the tanks and the armored vehicles, that it is about 40 miles long. The convoy could be used as a staging ground for an attack on the capital. A similar tactic could also be used in Ukraine's second city of Kharkiv, right there. And this morning, we learned that over 70 Ukrainian servicemen were killed on Sunday in Russian shelling in the town of Oktyrka, according to the regional governor. These pictures are from the area on Sunday. And Russia wants to create a land corridor in the south, so it's taken the port city of Berdyansk. These are recent pictures we have from Berdyansk. You can see a couple of Russian tanks making their way there. They want to move east to Mariupol, and Russia has an advantage in numbers. This morning, we've seen reports that the Russian army are on the outskirts of the southern city of Kherson, building up that presence in the south of the country and almost making that land bridge to the east. Many Ukrainians will open their windows or they'll look at maps like this and they will be extremely worried. The only escape route they have is west towards Eastern European countries, which are in both the European Union and NATO and under the umbrella of protection of the West. Many in order to get to the west, get to Lviv in western Ukraine, and then take a train across the border into Poland. About 500,000 people have done this to these countries, and these are our latest pictures from the train station in Lviv. Families have been separated, women and children have been getting on. This soldier is telling the men down there that they are not legally allowed to leave the country. Any man between 18 and 60 has to stay and fight. That's according to the rules. The refugee crisis that you're seeing there is the most intense week of human flight within Europe's borders since at least the Balkan Wars of the 1990s, the last time Europe saw such intensive war. The United Nations is trying to look ahead. It says it's preparing for up to 4 million refugees from Ukraine in the coming days and weeks. Now, if we have a look at the map, it's important not just from Ukraine to Poland, but from Poland back to Ukraine again. This is a very, very important route because it's a supply line for Ukraine to get its weapons and its volunteers. As the invasion progresses, though, Russia may want to use its ally here in the north to try and push forces down on this western border to choke off Ukraine's supply lines. That's how things look this morning. Dan.
We are trying to bring you the very latest from what's happening in Ukraine this morning, and we have some developments to bring you and some pictures to show you from central Kharkiv, which has been hit by what we believe to be a Russian strike. And this morning, that appeared to target some government offices in a place called Freedom Square, which is in the city centre.
I'm going to show you the pictures now. A viral video on Ukrainian social media channels shows a missile slamming into the front of the Regional State Administration building.
Which looks awful, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's outside of that building. You can see those pictures are really quite shocking. It causes a huge fiery explosion, which actually does blow out windows and some of the nearby cars.